Episode 478 of the TV Dudes, recorded March 14th, 2024. The Gentlemen. This week, we're going to go over and talk about the new Netflix adaptation you might have heard about. It's an adaptation of a beloved property.
Les, we've already talked about Avatar a lot.
No,
a lot.
No, it's not that. It's not that.
I'm sorry, what?
This time, Netflix has decided to make an entire series out of Guy Ritchie's film, The Gentlemen.
Oh, okay. Beloved IP seems I like we enjoy it, but like, do even people consider it like the best of Guy Ritchie's oeuvre?
They may not think so, but I would challenge them to watch all of Guy Ritchie's movies and
it's like
reassess.
For my money, it is the best version of the movie he keeps trying to make, which is Snatch and Lock, Stock,
right.
and like.
Yeah, we thought Lock, Stock was the best, and then he made Snatch, and he made a bunch of other crap, like Swept Away, and then he eventually got Snatch even righter with The Gentlemen, and we'll see how they do with the series of it.
Mm-hmm. It'll be good to see Matthew McConaughey though. And
again, it will. Except he's not in this.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, it's a whole new cast. It's kind of the same characters, maybe like.
It'll be interesting to see who they cast as Mickey.
So he's not really in this. It's like a sidequel.
Okay, you're losing me here.
I know.
What are we doing?
We'll talk about it all in a minute.
Is it an adaptation or not? Les, I'm confused.
It's a side adaptation.
Okay.
But before we get to all that, I'm Les.
I'm Nick.
And we're the TV Dudes.
Man, I wanted to do something new if we wanted to start off on a different foot, a different note, and a horse of a different color, if you will.
Gotcha.
I thought we could do some tuning in with the TV Dudes.
Cool.
And who's going to be tuning in with us? I wanted to, catch up with some of our listeners. We've been posting on Facebook more lately, trying to get more on there.
Trying to do the socials.
So I wanted to list through some of our top comments for this week, especially since we did a whole series of best of decades, or most important TV shows of certain decades, like the 50s, 80s, and 90s, I believe.
Yes. So Jeff Jones chimed in over on Facebook to let us know about a lost 80s gem that I'd never heard of, called Frank's Place, which is sadly unavailable on streaming or home media. Jeff says, my favorite show from the 80s is Frank's Place, which only lasted one season. It was a really unique show starring Tim Reed, who played Venus Flytrap over on WKRP in Cincinnati. It's set in New Orleans. Never really found an audience, but it really should have. Clever, extremely well written. Unfortunately, music rights have caused some issues with releasing the episodes on DVD, and it's not really available. The entire thing I did find over on YouTube, but it looks like someone taped it off of like an antenna their little brother was holding up on the roof of the house.
Okay.
It's got a real bad quality vibe to it.
Sure.
That said, it is, from what I got to watch, a pretty interesting show. It is one of the first 80s sitcoms to eschew any form of laugh track. There's no laugh track to it. It makes the jokes hit differently because it's like an overlap between writing a show for a Three's Company era and then moving it kind of towards modern sitcoms. There was a cool interview with Tim Reed that I found online from just a few years ago, where he talked about finding out why they were canceled and finding out that apparently it was not ratings, that they had actually done pretty well over the summer and probably would have kept going. They were going to start shooting their first step of season 2 the next day. And he got word that they were canceled. And then he found out years later, talking to, I think, Walter Cronkite of all people.
Okay.
That, no, man, do you know why the network canceled you? Y'all did an episode called King of Wall Street. Don't know. It's online. I want to go watch it. But apparently some joke they made in it directly offended a board member of whatever company was producing them.
And that's the way it was, bitch.
And Cronkite told him, like, man, I won't say who you pissed off, but a joke hit somebody wrong and they were real thin skinned and your show died.
It's nice to see that there's still like the pettiness was even like maybe just not even the same, but even on a different level of how powerful studios were back then.
Yeah. That somebody could just be like, this sitcom that nobody's watching is just taking it too far. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but the 50s was a different story. I think the most significant one, like Jeff Jones piped in again for I Love Lucy. And I do believe that, like, yeah, I Love Lucy was like hard. It's hard to comprehend now what it was
How
back then,
big.
like how big it was
Yeah.
back. Like people canceled doctor's appointments so they
Yeah.
didn't have to miss
It-
I Love Lucy. It was crazy.
I mean, I know, like, even for when we were kids, like with just networks, there was already cable. It was already starting to fray where you couldn't see how like any one show was going to be that powerful. But I still grew up with like must see TV destination Thursdays. I Love Lucy was on another level. Uh, the the power that they held was honestly amazing. Also, the show's damn funny. Like, I Love Lucy gags still hold up. You can still go watch the YouTube clip of them trying to eat the chocolates on the conveyor belt line. That is still like a Chaplin level physical comedy bit.
Yeah.
Like there's still stuff that holds up in that, unlike the Honeymooners or stuff like that that just look kind of worse the further you get from a 50s housewife era.
Although I will say a quick mention for Jeannie Moody's, who mentioned the Donna Reed show, and Lassie.
Yes.
Lassie was one that I actually saw on Nick Jr. of all places a lot. They would run old black and white reruns on Nick Jr. in the morning. It was super weird.
Because I watched Nick at Night growing up, and that's how I saw like My Three Sons. And
yeah,
Mr.
and that's where they would show I Love Lucy and Three's Company and stuff like that. Like,
yeah, and I loved all those. And then we also had Danny Doggett weigh in on the 80s, or sorry,
the 90s.
90s, rather.
Which is an important decade for me.
Yes.
So, but I do believe that this is the best, one of the, if not the best answer, one of the best answers.
Absolutely.
Danny Doggett, I think we'll quote him in saying, the answer is the Fresh Prince, you fools.
Indeed.
And yeah, I mean, that hard, it's another one, like, not unlike loosely, like, hard to comprehend how big Fresh Prince was.
I think everybody but the original Aunt Viv would probably agree.
Yeah, but also, I will mention Dennis McElwain. I agree with almost everything you counted out to. Like, you did a far list, like Farscape, Batman, Superman, the animated series, Outer Limits, Cheers, Frasier. Like, you had a huge list on there, but like all those were also
all
important.
all solid choices.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis is also just a great guy.
Yeah,
always fun to agree with on TV and see at Fantastic Fest and stuff.
But yeah, if you would, like to participate, we post every once in a while on our Facebook page, and just throw in with your top comments, and we'll discuss. I think especially Frank's Place, I thought that was interesting. Like, I don't know what that is.
No, it's so rare to have a show just completely blindside me that I was like, what is a Frank's Place?
Kind of like, I think Jeannie Mooney said Kid Video. For like,
but yeah, I've already shown you Kid Video.
And I'm like,
Nick's like, I've seen that.
I have. I actually can't remember now.
They're an 80s band that gets pulled through a mirror into a cartoon universe. And the villain is kind of like a cheesy Mojo from X-Men.
I've seen this.
You've seen some part of this.
Okay.
And his he's got these cats that work for him, and they go around and steal songs off musicians. Like, he pulls real musicians into the Mojoverse and like steals their song.
Okay, I gotta tell you, I feel like I would remember this if I had seen this.
I'm gonna show you again, and it's gonna make a spot in your brain and then wipe that spot clean.
I don't know what you're talking about. All right, but let's bring it up to speed. Keep it modern. What have we watched this week for the diaries, Les?
The Diaries of the Television Dudes. Brought to you by only the finest cocaine wine.
Some modern TV, you say? I feel like we have watched some modern TV. All right. So this week, I watched a horror movie called It Comes at Night, which...
Oh, the A24 one?
Yes. Mm-hmm. It was not as... I was afraid it was going to be... I watched a movie just recently called, I think, Speak No Evil.
Yeah.
That I hated, like with every fiber of my being hated. And for a little while, I really thought It Comes at Night was going to be like that. It's people living in a post-apocalypse. You don't really know what happened, but it had to be pretty recent. And they're living kind of out in the woods in a cabin, this little family. And Guy wanders up through the woods, and they go through, kind of a tense greeting, and you come to find out his family is, like a couple of miles away in another cabin, and they've run out of water.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's exploring. There's some kind of disease. Everybody's really paranoid about the plague. All in all, it ends up being kind of a interesting movie about making safe rational decisions for your family that end up getting everybody killed. Like everybody in here makes decisions that you can understand and agree with.
Okay.
Like you've got two families, both of which don't really know each other. When you come to think that somebody's sick in the house, what do you do? Like all of a sudden the trust just disintegrates. And they, man, it just blows up at the end. Like it ends on just this dismal last shot of like, oh fuck.
An A24 film?
I know, it's stunning. It's stunning. But it was pretty cool for a movie where you knew damn well there wasn't really going to be a monster, like the monsters, other people in a plague. It still kept my interest and handled it pretty well. And it wasn't outright like, I'm mad at you, A24. Also, we will discuss on Patreon, but Nick, you walked me through Avatar Animated Season 2. So I got to meet Toph, got to watch Aang learn a lot more bending, got to see Zuko suck, just be terrible. But yeah, we'll discuss all of that. I've also kept up on Ghosts, which continues to be a cute sitcom. Week to week is killing me, but fun times. My rewatch of Magicians still going. I know it's hard to believe, but things have gotten worse for our gang. Basically every solution they've done so far is a bigger problem now, as it is on that show. Lisa and I finished up Fargo season 1. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? You know about this?
Yeah, I've seen that. I've heard about that.
I don't know why Randy never once mentioned this show to me. Same with Avatar. Not once.
Honestly.
Not a single time. Fargo season 1 took me longer to get through than all the other seasons probably combined.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly, I mean, partly because Lisa and I were holding back to watch it together, but it's still like it took longer than all of them. I think it's because Billy Bob Thornton's haircut is that bad.
Yeah, it's not great.
Dude, Lorne Malvo, like, he's the devil because of that haircut. I did not expect how it ended. I would have sworn some people were going to walk away that didn't.
Yeah.
Just based on how all the other seasons of Fargo have gone, I kind of figured that like the most evil person would probably skate, but like the second most evil person would do something stupid. Nope, doesn't quite go down like that. Really cool. Also I've been watching them out of order. I watched that whole season before really putting together that Lou Solverson is Patrick Wilson. Patrick Wilson's character in season 2 is Allison Tolman's dad in season 1.
Yeah. Like
Lou's Diner. That's Lou in season 2. Watching them out of order was a trip.
No, it's fun. Like they jump around in time so that
and they're tangentially connected.
They're kind of like, well, I mean, that's that's the most solid connection any of the seasons have. Like one character is actually a younger version of another character in the season.
Right. Honestly,
and even then it's a side character.
It's about as connected as I ever want these things. Like Night Country was the same way. Like, oh, that guy is somebody else's dad, but that's the full connection. Cool. That's enough for me. Also watched Ernest Saves Christmas, which I don't think I'd seen since I was a kid.
Sure.
It holds up as well as any Ernest movie possibly could. As an adult, you're probably not going to dig Ernest as much as you might have as a kid.
Yeah.
It's Ernest.
Sure.
Know what I mean, Vern?
Yeah, I do know what you mean, Vern.
That said, Ernest Saves Christmas is a gem. That movie's awesome. Jim Varney's a national fucking treasure. Love that dude. And then, of course, we watched Fanny and I have been rewatching Daisy Jones and the Six, which I think I actually am enjoying more on rewatch. It's just a cool groove of a show that sounds like Fleetwood Mac. It's fun. Nick, you and I watched something that was surprising, I think, to both of us.
Yeah.
How funny we found this. Ricky Stenicki.
Which I guess it shouldn't be because we like John Cena has been, but then again, we got burned on Freelance.
Man, Freelance was that's why. That's why. Dude, John Cena's awesome. I love that guy. Yeah. Freelance sucked. I mean,
we were still licking our wounds from Freelance.
Oh, God. So Ricky Stenicki, stupid premise. Incredibly stupid premise.
Honestly, but it's kind of great.
Genius.
It's kind of brilliant. Like there's so these group of friends make up a old friend of theirs as an excuse to get away with guy trips or getting out of stuff that they don't want to do.
It starts out as setting a bag of dog crap on fire on somebody's porch, and they catch the guy's entire porch on fire, and they blame this made up friend and their kids. So in the moment, in the heat of it, when they're like, I need a name, Ricky Stanhope. That's my last name, dude.
Damn it.
But he's already written Stan, so he just writes Stanicki. Like, you named him Ricky Stenicki. I was under pressure, man. Yeah, so it starts from like a stupid kid decision, and then they just montage past it because there's no explaining this in a real adult movie.
No,
but it's still holding strong when they're like 30.
They've written a what's interesting is they've written a character with an arc,
character Bible. I love that he starts out as the friend of theirs that would set a bag of dog shit on fire, and he's a saint by the time they're adults.
Now he's recovered, like he's a recovering alcoholic.
Recovery, that's right.
And he has just got diagnosed with cancer, so he's in the part of he's the end point of their life in a biopic,
right,
where things are like they've written to a point, I think, in their lives what they need for that.
He's like aspirational what they
yeah. And so they run the risk getting caught on a trip to Atlantic City, and so they finally have to in order to convince one of the mother-in-laws is one of the ones that's really.
I do love that she is suspicious from the start.
And well, you would be there's
absolutely
after years,
someone needs to say it early on.
Some of these people have children with a wife and a kid that still doesn't know stick and icky isn't real. I'm like, dude, that's a whole life you've led with a fake person. So they run into a actor,
just maniac actor played by John Cena.
Who does
erotic covers of songs.
Well, they're just jizz covers of songs.
Yes, they're just masturbatory covers of songs. It's absolutely insane. Hot Rod. Anyway, they hire this maniac to be Ricky at one of their bachelor party wedding. Yeah, all of this. And it just goes off the rails. There's a lot of fun and games to be had just trying to teach Cena the Bible of the character. But then half the fun is that he goes so much farther than they do.
Yeah,
he takes Ricky and makes it real.
He honestly, the first scene he does it in, you're like, man, I don't know what you're gonna pay that guy, but you gotta pay him extra. He's really killing this.
Right.
He did the research.
And I love that they're getting more and more nervous because he keeps taking the stories out further. And
honestly,
or he's connecting stuff where those why did you say that? Because such and such was in the Bible. Oh my God, he actually read it.
The only thing I would say is that structurally it's a little weird. They take a long time to actually get to Cena playing Stanicky.
Right. There's a lot, and it's fun, but there's a lot of setup.
But it means the second act is kind of short. There's not a lot of fun and games with Ricky before we have a come to Jesus. Ricky can't be Ricky anymore. But the three guys, I'm like, I'm not on your side most of this movie because honestly, Ricky's life is so blown up and shitty that he's gonna run. Ricky is a way better person to be. Yeah. His life is way better.
Oh yeah, you can tell from the jump they're never gonna get rid of this guy.
And I'm like, yeah, but if you're in Ricky's position, wouldn't you? There's just no reason to not.
No, even if this fake life goes up in flames, it's still better than anything he's doing today.
Because he goes off and is in gets a job as a finance bro, and it's Wolf of Wall Street
with
rules.
William H. Macy as their boss.
Yeah, he's air dicking.
Yeah,
but it's and they're all upset. I can't believe you're making more than me. And I'm like, dude, you live in a it's not Ricky's fault. You work in a environment that basically just rewards blind confidence.
You picked an industry that runs on blind confidence, and then you hired the most insanely confident person on the planet.
I've seen The Big Short. I've seen Wolf of Wall Street. Right. None of you actually know how it works.
Well, God, when they're so shocked when he's there that day, they think they're never going to see this dude again, and they walk past an office and he's sitting there because their boss has hired him.
Yes,
because they vouched for him.
Yeah.
But when they ask Ricky, what do you plan to do here? And he's like, I don't know. You guys are basically bookies, right? And they work at a stock exchange. They work at a brokerage. And I love that.
One of them no, we're not. And then the other one's
Zac Efron's we're not bookies. Yeah. And his friend is like, man, we're not bookies.
I mean, when you break it down, it's its simplest. People are making bets on financial,
I love
on
that
stocks.
He sees through it immediately. No, I mean, you guys are bookies, right? He gets it. Man, I enjoyed the crap out of that. It's like Vacation Friends. Yeah, I will definitely watch that again. It was
really fun. Where was it on?
It's on Amazon Prime. Farrelly Brothers. It's Peter Farrelly's, not the brothers, but it's Peter Farrelly's return to doing comedies for the first time in a while. Didn't necessarily mean that was going to go great.
Yeah, I think they both returned for the Dumb and Dumber sequel, and that was not.
Yeah, and that didn't go great. Yeah. This was worth it, man. I had a lot more fun with Ricky Stenicki than I thought I would.
Yeah. All right. Well, the only thing from my diaries is since we've watched so much Avatar, I've been kind of like interested in adaptations.
Mm-hmm.
Some live adaptations, but just adaptations in general in like how it works. So I watched a little bit of Halo season 2. And yeah, I don't care. It's just honestly, and that's one of the ones that I'm like, man, that it doesn't even work as well as the Avatar one, because at least that one got you interested in the world and the lore. And honestly, the world and the lore is the most boring thing about Halo.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like, I'm like, I don't fucking. It just doesn't make me want to play the
I know
games.
I watched the first episode of season 1, but I did not come out of it wanting to play Halo
No, it's more
or
like,
understanding why Halo was special.
no, I don't really. This one deals with the fall of Reach. And like this whole
I know
planet,
that was a big deal in the games.
and it's
I
a big
remember the
deal.
ad campaign.
and it feels like a big deal. Like when you're watching the show, I'm like, okay, they're getting across that this is a big part of the lore and that this is an important moment and that I should be paying attention. But also, they don't really get across the military coup that's going, like the conspiracy that's going on, because they like the humans abandon Reach and leave the Spartans there to die. Take their suits away so that these engineered super weapons can die there, and a bunch of their military, a bunch of the military is also there. And I'm like, you explain to me how this helps them win the war.
Yeah,
And it's said that it's a war between two different ideologies of how to fight the Covenant, but I watched like 3 episodes, like or however long it takes them to actually get to the invasion part of it, and no one has successfully explained to me how this is a successful strategy, losing an entire fucking planet. I watched the first episode of The Sandman.
Yeah, I think there's actually more coming. Did I see that on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah, more episodes are actually that right after it came out. I think Neil Gaiman made a like kind of passive aggressive, like, hopefully there's more.
Yeah, that's right.
Which it worked perfectly. It worked perfectly. Like Netflix was so immediately like, I'm probably gonna do more.
Well, it's one of those things. I can't really remember the changes from the comic, because the comic is so. I read the comic, but it comes off more as a feel. Like I don't remember specific events.
And the comic is so 80s, 90s.
Yeah, but I'm like, I know they changed stuff, but all of the stuff they change like doesn't feel like
No, and
wrong or anything.
unlike even less or even more so than Avatar, every change made was made with Gaiman standing over it.
Yeah,
Like
they did the One Piece rule of like, here's the, but yeah, I would say that's one of the more successful adaptations I've ever seen. And Boyd Holbrook might actually make the Corinthian even more interesting.
Dude,
like
the Corinthian was jaw dropping when I was a kid and read it. He was so cool, just so scary.
Right.
So
it's a big role to fill, and in Boyd Holbrook, I'm like, he might actually be better now.
Like he makes it real. It's great.
I'm kind of sad for him, of like, he's a monster, but also like, I'm just doing what you made me to do. And Sandman's like, I made you wrong. Like, that doesn't make me feel better.
Yeah, right.
Fuck you, you unfeeling god.
Right.
Like,
because he's just living his best life, man.
Mm-hmm. I watched My Adventures with Superman, a couple
Always
episodes. So that's just an adaptation of like another in a long line of adaptations, and that one just happens to be one of the better ones for that character.
In terms of jumping back to an origin but updating it, when most of the time the rule is, God, please stop doing origins every movie.
Mm-hmm.
This one does it. I would think I never need to see Smallville again. I never need to see Superman's origin again. I know what happens.
Yeah.
Nah, this is gold. I fucking loved that show.
Rooster Teeth got shut down. Or like,
so I learned this past week what Rooster Teeth, the name, came from.
Yeah.
I don't know how I never put that together. It's cockbiter.
Yeah.
Which is an insult from Red versus Blue.
Mm-hmm.
What a gross way to name your company.
Yeah, but pretty fitting for.
It seems really fitting.
Red
It seems like they had insane management problems and real gross WeWork kind of office environment. Like, I don't know that Rooster Teeth had a fuck closet, but it sounds like they might have. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk shit about. I don't know anything about this company. I never really followed them. I've seen a bunch of people post. I mean, I know they're local guys, but they're the local boys that know, or local gang that no one in Austin watched. Like, I know very few people here that were excited about, or that weren't surprised to find out they were here, which is weird.
Well, they did a bunch of like their company was so famous for behind the scenes stuff. Like, they had cameras in that company constantly, which was surprising considering how.
I think that's the vibe I always got when I looked over at their stuff, was like, I feel like I'm supposed to already be into this to be into this.
Mm-hmm.
Like it felt very meta and insular.
Well, they created their own convention.
Oh, that's right.
Like,
They did. Yeah, I mean, because I saw a bunch of people post that like the community was really their key asset, and that seems like it's why they folded then. Because
Yeah.
like I don't know how you sell that.
Well, I mean,
But like if it's a community and no one watched the shows,
they would sell merch of just like and so I checked in on Ruby for like a couple episodes, and man, watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's like it's very clear what Ruby takes. There's a whole aspect of like the Winter Maidens who die and are then reincarnated into another, and they're like, but it's one of those things of like, oh, Miles and what's his name are like the writers on the show, and it's very much like, oh, this like girl power cartoon is written by two white dudes, and which is why John d'Arc, the like one of the dude characters, gets a lot of focus. I'm like, man, I forget how I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot how much focus he gets rather than
the characters,
like the Ruby crew are basically side characters in their own story.
That sucks.
Which sucks. But it's better than the magic system that they bring up. Because at first it's just like, oh, well, they have all special abilities and guns and it's cool. And like, I think like 9 episodes in, they are like, oh yeah, that's aura. And I was like, what's aura? Well, it's this thing that like is not magic. It's not magic. It's like this energy that's around you and is basically acts like a shield so that, we can explain why people don't bleed.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, well then, but also that means you have a semblance, and the semblance is your very specific to you power. Everyone's semblance is completely unique, except for if you have a family semblance, because then you all have the same semblance. Like they almost immediately go back on their.
We are getting into the weeds here,
and
real
so
fast.
And so like, but so the weapons run on like someone's semblance, right? Got it. No, the weapons run on dust, and dust is, I'm like, motherfucker. And then sometimes something will happen and the characters will go, how did that happen? Because magic doesn't exist in their world, but it does.
They just don't know it.
They just don't know it. And so, but the magic is indistinguishable from semblances and aura. There's no way to tell for the audience except for the characters going, oh, I can't believe that happened, even though like
stuff like it has happened.
So like, well, someone creates fire, and I'm like, and so I was like, oh my god, she's using magic, and I'm like, dude, one of you has a fire semblance. Like,
right.
One of you gets mad and just generates fire around their body. Like that is,
yeah,
that
would drive me insane.
So in watching Avatar was just like, oh yeah, the fucking magic, like the magic system there, the bending is separated from the spirit world, and they have their both defined rules, and they rarely retcon anything.
The closest you get to anybody doing anything with a bending power that isn't that you can't extrapolate from what you already know is Sparky Boom Man.
Yes, yeah.
In season 3,
even then it's kind of, he seems to have a specific thing.
Even then you can kind of watch what he's doing and put together that like, oh, he's a firebender. This is a super weird power that he can barely control.
Yeah. He's got to do this exact thing every time. He's got to breathe, and then like
they hit him with a pebble and wrecks it.
Yeah. Now feels like a good time to remind everyone that you can support the TV Dudes at patreon.com/tvdudes. That a couple bucks an episode, you help keep the lights on in the show, keep our subscriptions to TV services up so we can watch more stuff, and you get access to bonus content, including our Avatar reviews that we are currently doing. This week we are doing season 2 of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Tough time, baby.
Yes, and also if you want to donate at the showrunner level, that's $20 a one-time donation. You can make us watch 3 episodes, I
4
believe.
episodes.
4 episodes. It seems like keeps going up. 4 episodes of whatever
Look, man,
you desire.
It's just 6 to 12 episodes. Look, it's 13 to 15 episodes, Nick.
God damn it.
It's no more than 20.
And actually kind of excited for Girls Forever to come back.
It's 25 to 30 episodes.
But yeah, if you like, if there's, shows that like I can't force Les to sit down and watch everything like I did with Airbender. So if you want to do it for us, that's definitely an option available.
It's definitely cheaper than having Netflix produce a live action season.
Yeah.
To get me to watch something.
But today we're focusing on The Gentleman in it.
Do you know what I admire about the British aristocracy? They're the original gangsters.
Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy?
Your house is a testament to the synthesis of this culture.
Is he rich like me?
Refinement with aggression.
Does he take us anytime to show you what you need to live?
Should we play or should we talk?
So, last year we did the big rewatch of Guy Ritchie movies with Randy on board. Because we all thought we were huge Guy Ritchie fans, and then we watched all of his movies.
I'm still a Guy Ritchie fan.
There's a Guy Ritchie I'm a fan of.
I think we all...
There's a Guy Ritchie that makes stuff like Swept Away.
We all were really good, it looked like, at what we had never watched. We were very discerning viewers of like, I feel like I don't want to watch that, and we
picked correctly every time,
every
single time,
because every new thing like that we watched was like Revolver and
why
Swept
didn't
Away.
I ever watch Revolver? And then we watched Revolver, or like, why didn't I ever watch Rock and Rolla? Oh, and then we watched Rock and Roll, which actually is not nearly the bottom of the pile.
No, it's just kind of a weaker
it's just
snatch.
kind of a weaker one. Yeah, but he is always going for the same movie, and when it doesn't really hit it, I don't know, it feels like waiting for your favorite like classic rock band to put out another album.
Yeah,
like on the one hand you want it to sound like their old stuff, but on the other hand it can't just sound like a bad cover band.
And sometimes he actually goes for a different type of movie, like Ruse de Guerre or Swept Away.
I was mad at Operation Fortune for being for acting like it was going to be the movie we wanted and then not being. At least Swept Away made no bones about being a regular Guy Ritchie movie.
It was just fucking
not just terrible,
not great.
Gross. Like
that was a man.
Movie is gross.
We've watched a lot of stuff for TV News. That one was
That's
one might have been the
worst
roughest
movie I think we've ever watched for the show, and I made y'all watch Between Worlds.
Yeah, no, that like not to say that Between Worlds was a picnic or anything, but Swept Away was
somehow worse. For looking more like a BMW ad. It's really God, I hated it. Fucking hated that movie. So thank God Netflix did not decide to make a multi-episode series of Swept Away. But we did get a multi-episode series of The Gentleman. So I mean I knew we weren't going to get our actors back. You know, we aren't going to get dude from Succession. We aren't going to get McConaughey.
It's interesting to see what Guy Ritchie's B team is.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I was interested. I'm like, okay, so Guy, you can't afford all your regulars. I mean, you couldn't afford all your regulars once they got big again.
Right.
Like,
right. I mean, honestly, Statham priced himself out of a lot of this. You got him back for Rue de Guerre, but did you? So this time, instead of anybody that you've heard of, if you haven't watched a shitload of TV, you got Theo James. Now, if you've watched a bunch of TV, you have seen Theo James. He is great in everything I've ever seen him in.
Yep.
But none of it's quite
he's the
right.
replacement love interest in the Underworld movies, and he's good in there too. Except those are like he's so good in all these projects, but he needs to whoever's picking his projects needs to fire them. Like
this is getting pretty good reviews so far, and he is gold. He is really great as Eddie Horniman. Now, Eddie in this one, I thought he was going to be our Mickey. He's not. He's our rich guy. He's also
he's not our Mickey either. It's weird.
It's weird. So this whole thing is like a side quill. We tried our damnedest to figure out who was who, and it just doesn't quite. It's a retelling a little bit
with the same
basic setup.
Sort of premise of using rich people's estates to grow weed.
Yeah. I think it's funny they don't really re-explain the premise. Like they walked us through it in the movie. Like lords have all this land. but they usually have real actual money problems because the title's bestowed, but then you have all this tax upkeep and bullshit.
Mhm.
So they have need of money. They've got
I mean,
a lot
it's not
of
like
land.
you can't figure it out.
Oh yeah,
Like,
I wasn't lost. I realized afterwards that like they really slow walked us through that in the movie. Like Mickey explains why they're using royals, or why they're using lords.
it's their moment of proving
Not
Mickey
royals,
how
lords.
Mickey's how slick Mickey is.
Yeah,
So they go through it in extreme detail and like, and I think Hugh Grant even's like, oh, the solution, it's so elegant. I have to tip my hat, and like
Mm.
they basically suck Mickey's dick
Yeah.
like throughout the whole explanation. Even though it's like, well, he had rich friends at his fucking school, and he used that connection to
Right.
get like it's. Don't get me wrong, it's clever,
but
it's clever,
But he's not. Yeah, he didn't think of.
But it
it's
was
not that wild.
but it's also mostly who he knew. Like,
So at the start of this show, we've got Theo James as Eddie Horniman. He is the second oldest son, middle son.
I want to say
Or
like
second oldest.
the open when we introduced to him, it's actually a really good scene.
That's probably my favorite scene they do in the
as
entire
far as
series.
efficient storytelling. They show him at a checkpoint or
Yeah.
a crossroads.
So he's
thing.
rich, but he went military. He
Uh-huh.
went to public school. He's tried to be a normal dude, and we see him lead a bunch of guys at a checkpoint, and he's cool.
and
He diffuses situations.
he makes snap decisions,
Yeah.
quick decisions, and more importantly is trying to make it like he's respectful.
right.
He's trying to keep a lid on things without having to like, resort to throwing a gun in someone's face. And he's like, hey, just do this. Like, hey, be nice.
Right,
like,
right.
Go.
Don't blow this up. Come on, be chill. but to get your job done.
So we watch him put out a couple fires before a guy comes up, like their lawyer, and basically says his dad's dying.
Yeah, like it's close enough. His dad's been dying, but like at this point,
It's like,
we've been
hey,
trying to call you for a minute. You need to come
Yeah.
home now.
yeah, it's like tonight is
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. So he comes home and his dad passes like that night.
uh-huh.
And instead of his older brother inheriting everything the way it should go,
Yeah.
his dad makes the absolute right move and leaves it
It's-
all to Eddie.
It's primogeniture, Freddie. It's like, I know what it is. You know what I said.
So his brother, Freddie, who should have inherited everything, played by Daniel Ings, is a serious idiot. Like a pro level idiot.
So at first, it's really fun. It's funny to watch that will reading because like we don't really have a context for like we get a little bit of like Freddy is just pissed and runs out. My favorite part is when he comes back. Like, all right, so I think when Freddy comes, calms down, you come back next week.
Oh, he's coming back.
Oh, great, he's coming back.
It's great. Well, it's a great moment. You see how fucking unspooled Freddy is, and it's another moment where we see how together Eddie is.
Well, he's very patient with his brother to almost a frustrating degree later.
It becomes the problem I have with the entire show. So at the start of it, we watch Eddie inherit the house, inherit everything, get kind of run through all the problems that you've just inherited because it's not great.
Well, yeah,
He's looking at the books. His dad hasn't made nearly enough money in years to be running this place.
at least not on
on the books, at least.
At least not on anything he's got documents for.
And then Susie Glass shows up. Kaya Scodelario is the actress that plays Susie Glass. She's Ray Winstone's daughter in the show, and she shows up to explain, oh hey, the land that you've just become lord of has a secret pot.
Yeah, we made a deal with your dad. He was
yeah.
kind of supposed to bring you in on this, but
There wasn't time. Yeah.
So like, so she basically walks through, and also she's respectful, and she's like though the two of them make the backbone of the show, and they're really good. They're really good
by the end
together.
of the second episode, I was so on board to watch the two of them become a lord and underworld criminal empire,
which is basically kind of what happens.
Like it's kind of where we end up.
And what I like about it is that Theo James's Eddie, his regalness and ability to basically recognize manners or mannerisms with lords and respect translates to gangster code of honor and respect.
Absolutely.
And I find that I'm like, oh, that's very interesting.
And they keep from the other side, they keep thinking he's going to not have the stomach for this, and his military background and just who he is, he does.
Yeah. But also like that. While Susie Glass is respectful, I'm like, okay, I get that this is a problem for you. This is a big deal. I got it. Well, like, here's a little bit more money to smooth this over, and like, but also like, we're not setting up shop somewhere else.
Yeah, we're not moving, man.
So we're not moving. And then he's like, he finagles his way into like talking with Ray Winstone and trying to get them out of here of the year. She's like, okay, I'll take care of this other problem for you with this guy who's about to lay down a bet in a boxing ring, and is like, oh, but you should see what I do to him, because like it's a great scene of like showing this guy like beaten half to death.
Yeah,
and she makes sure to like
Eddie sees it.
That Eddie sees it, and like
it's a lesson for a few people standing there. Yeah,
and it's where the show is best, where it's accomplishing a lot at once.
Mm-hmm.
And is like, and Eddie, you get Eddie's great acting going on through here, because you can definitely see that Susie, this is her intention, and Eddie's picking up on it.
Eddie gets the lesson.
Like, and
moments like that, the show sings. It is brilliant. It's fun. It is compulsively watchable. We tore through it. Here's where the problems come in.
Yeah.
Those two characters, based on what we just told you, that writing is so smart. You're watching them pick up 2 or 3 things in every scene. You're watching them gather different kinds of info off different people in the same conversation. It's slick. And then you watch them do a series of the dumbest things someone could do in their positions, just irresponsibly run their shit badly, all in service of humor from a character that I don't find funny.
What's that guy's name again?
Jimmy,
yeah.
So their botanist that runs their pot lab, that is their genius.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen throughout this whole show, we're seeing little bits from other Guy Ritchie movies, like, oh, you're a little bit from this movie, you're a little bit from Lock, Stock, you're a little bit from Snatch. Here's some Pikeys, here's some, different Guy Ritchie tropes. We get the guys from Lock, Stock that are running the pot farm or whatever, with the cage and the BB gun and all of that.
Yeah.
Like, it's those idiots boiled down into one idiot, Jimmy.
Right.
And Jimmy's so fucking stupid that you can't possibly believe that these two criminals would ever trust him with anything. And what do? They let him drive 1.5 million pounds worth of, not weight pounds, but like value of weed in a van.
And here's the problem with, I think Guy Ritchie is so used to writing in a very small structure of a 3-act structure in a 90-minute thing. Get in, get out.
If all of Jimmy'd been in the second act of a 3-act movie,
it would probably
I'd be
work.
done. I'd be good, and I wouldn't be that mad at him. It continues on for at least 3 episodes of Jimmy being or maybe 4 episodes of Jimmy being so stupid, and no one notices. And no one's mad about it. No one checks up on him on the 3rd or 4th mistake. And
it comes down to like, why has no one killed Jimmy? And the answer only is because the story says he needs to do something later.
Yeah, and it's one of several moments where you think something's happening that isn't. There's a moment, the first time that Eddie tries to talk to Ray Winstone of like, so I want you off my land at the end of the year, and the reason you're going to do it is because I've got a way for you to make even more money.
Mm-hmm.
Only he doesn't.
Yeah, we
set that up like he has a plan.
Yeah, but no, he
doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we watch him, and so that's an already like, wow, Eddie, that was dumber than I thought you were. But okay, it's fine. You're pretty smart. We'll put that one aside. And then Eddie loses $1.5 million bucks worth of weed.
Jimmy.
Sorry. And they get mad at him.
Yeah.
But they don't chase it down. They don't follow up on it.
Mm-hmm.
And Jimmy contacts the girl that robbed him again and brings her to the place. There's no guards. There's no nothing. No one stops him. No one's checking Jimmy's phone.
Yeah. And what it does
every time it happens, it makes our main characters dumber.
And what it happens, especially Susie Glass, she's the one employing him.
No, and she's the one that the show is trying to show us that other people maybe think that her dad is the real power, and she's kind of wanting to show that like, no, I'm as legit as him. And this undercuts all that growth.
It makes her look really bad at running this empire, which is bad for the later episodes, because when she freaks out and starts to lose control, it's supposed to be a like, oh, this normally in control character is now.
Well, that's when I realized that the show doesn't realize what they've done.
Yeah, the show does not realize.
I'm holding Jimmy's sins against her.
Yeah, well, it's impossible not to, because
she passes up 2 chances where she would have killed anyone else on the show. But there's no scene explaining to me why Jimmy's more special, and there's no scene dealing with Jimmy.
They don't explain that he has a personal relationship with her, like a friend, or that he's so valuable as a botanist. Mm-hmm. And even then, if they did, he's the botanist. Why is he driving the van?
You don't have any other employees?
No, that's stupid. Like it's he's driving the van so that it can get stolen. Yeah. And I'm like, and they don't want to have a new character drive the van. And I'm like, okay, well then have him be the van driver, and he's just a fuck up.
Yeah.
and then have someone else be the botanist.
All of that really clouds the thing they need to happen, where there's a feeling of betrayal between the two of them. It's all muddled, so that by the time I'm supposed to feel this split between Eddie and Susie, I don't feel it, because they've both been acting kind of dumb, and neither one of them feels very engaged.
The crossroads they come to is hey, Susie promised to spare a kid that got involved with one of Freddy's things.
Yeah.
And she didn't, because honestly it was the smarter move. Nah, fuck that guy. And honestly,
she outright lies to him about it.
And Eddie, and she lies to him about it, and honestly, like you said, Eddie, it's not that it shouldn't bother him. Like, she lied about it, she went against her word about it, that should bother, but it doesn't feel like a schism. It
killed a bunch of people already.
Yeah.
I don't mean to write it off as nothing, but it doesn't feel like the schism that they want it to be in the show. And then consequently, when they come back together, I don't feel like they overcame anything.
Sure.
And in the meantime, they still haven't, either one of them, dealt with Jimmy.
No. But at least the show, when I first started, I thought Freddy was going to be our big problem, because is. But honestly, the show drops him for a while.
They kind of lose track of Freddy for a while,
which honestly is good, because he's just he doesn't ever contribute anything.
It's why I know the show knows that Jimmy's dumb as a box of hammers. Mm-hmm. It's because when they lose track of Freddy, it's so that he goes and hangs out with Jimmy for several episodes. And you two are those two should be buddies. That's why you know that both of them are dumb as rocks. At the other thing that I felt like got short shrift, you have Giancarlo Esposito as a character, and he's a plot functionary.
They introduce him, I think, F1.
Mm-hmm. We lose track of him for a while.
Well, and then suddenly the guys that trick the girls that trick Jimmy, or the girl that does, one's wearing a black leather suit, one's wearing a white leather suit.
Yeah.
We never see the white leather suit or their deal again.
She doesn't matter, I guess.
And I don't think we ever figure out what happens to them. But they're working for a mysterious benefactor, and it's like, is it Giancarlo Esposito? The guy we just saw. You haven't
introduced that many people, right?
And they treat it like a big reveal, and it's like, well, yeah, it's Giancarlo Esposito. You haven't done anything with him since that first episode.
Yeah.
So he's got to be
hanging out there with money.
But they treat it like a big reveal in some way, and it's
I loved this show at the start. I was really, really on board. Still midway through, I was mad at Jimmy for the last 3 episodes, and by the end of it, I was mad at it. I wouldn't rewatch it. It would feel like a short version of Lost, where the first few episodes, you're like, damn, this is cool. This is going to go somewhere. And then you remember, no, I've seen this. It doesn't.
Well, I mean, there's a couple things that are really cool about it. Like the actual individual adventures they go on are pretty slick sometimes. Like the underground boxing thing, where it's a unlicensed match between 2 heavyweight champions.
Right. Known people.
Known people, but they don't want it to go on their records or whatever if one of them loses. So it's an exclusive private event for the uber rich.
Yeah, so you're never even going to say who you watched or who beat whom here. You're going to win your money and shut up about it.
Yeah, and it feels exclusive.
It does.
And it feels like something you could definitely sell to rich people of
absolutely. And they're all Freddy's walking in I've just placed my bet. I got to put my phone in the locked Kevlar bag, and shit, you guys really are catering to rich people. That really worked.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah, this show more than almost any other is half and half. Stuff that infuriated me that I did not like, and then stuff that I was like, this is so fucking good.
Yeah, well, I mean, in that show, Sticky Pete, the guy they go to see, he's already and they don't outright say it, but they go over how Sticky Pete made an investment for me, and that's how he got in trouble with the other mob, because he stole and I'm like, oh, Sticky Pete fleeced you, and then he goes to place another bet for Sticky Pete, and it's another scam. But for Freddy and the audience, it's supposed to be, oh, we're learning now that Sticky is a con man. I'm like, oh, I got that immediate.
Right. Thankfully, that one still basically works, because Freddy's such an idiot that I could laugh at the scene where Freddy's discovering it.
When was the last time
When
was the last time you watched a Guy Ritchie movie and you, as an audience member, were ahead of the plot, and waiting for oh, I know what's going to happen.
Right. You really shouldn't be. You should be pulling a face with the rest of us while Brad Pitt looks totally calm in Snatch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
These you should get to enjoy watching them unfold. You shouldn't be steps ahead. This is better than Rue de Guerre, Operation Fortune. This is more pure Guy Ritchie. this is the new Guy Ritchie movie that you were waiting for. That said, like most Guy Ritchie movies, he does 90% of what he does better than anyone on earth, and then the other 10% is a bad movie sewn through it.
And it's at the
this
exact
thing-
wrong times.
Yeah, this thing goes out too long. We kept noticing on and on that, like, wow, in a shorter movie, everybody talking cool like this works and is fun. And it's like Ocean's 11, like I get in and out. If you did Ocean's 11 for 10 episodes, I would eventually realize that none of these people are having real conversations. They're just talking surface, and none of them are really connecting. Because, man, midway through, I was like, these people are cool, but it's gone on long enough now that I realize none of them really feel for each other. It made the brother stuff really the best working shit.
Yeah.
Like when they finally do deal with Freddy a little bit and have him like apologize, more or less just bow out. It was an actual, like, an emotional moment. But for the most part, I realized that this is why you don't extend Guy Ritchie movies into series.
Yeah, well,
These people aren't real.
There's some great dialogue, like so you got caught, I got passed up and caught with his pants down, which is like, there's some great poetry and rhyme scheme in it, but it also leads to like stuff that doesn't pay off before. Like within the will reading, I thought one of the great setups was that it has a quick little aside about the sister, who's basically not in this show.
No, she vanishes for most of it.
But it is a quick little thing of like, hey, and so she gets a boat if she travels across the world, and also she gets this trust fund of $1,000 a week, or £1,000 a week or something.
Like she's got to do the Donald Glover community thing.
But also like if she, but she has to marry a man. And I was like, oh, that's pretty funny. And it's like, okay, so the dad is subtly getting revenge on everyone in this will.
Right. Because like she's gay or something, right?
Yeah. No, she comes back in the show and she's pregnant.
She's refused to do the boat thing because that's crazy. And they just say like, no, I don't think I'm gonna really do that. I'm gonna go back to school. And she goes back to school and she comes back pregnant. And then out of nowhere in the final episode, we find out that one of the groundskeepers is her real dad. And I guess that's a whole.
Oh
thing
yeah,
we're
Vinnie
supposed to
Jones.
feel. Yeah,
and like, who cares?
Yeah,
but
like I don't mean
I
don't mean to sound cold, like I don't care about that situation, but I don't care about these two people.
I thought that was like Vinnie Jones and the mom of the matriarch of the family were just cute and like, oh, now that the dad is officially dead, like
you guys can finally finish your like,
yeah, you've been like kind of feeling each other for probably a while.
Yeah, Vinnie Jones can close this flirting deal that
like,
he's been.
Oh no, they've been like,
you guys closed this deal.
Yeah, like a long time ago. Okay,
I'm gonna say roughly 24 years ago.
Vinnie Jones is good in this. He doesn't have a lot to do.
No, but he owns it. He's really great. He gets some of the most fun lines. He's their groundskeeper that's really just there to like take care of foxes and moles and stuff like that.
And that fox stares down Theo James something
and every
fierce.
time somebody goes to his house, they're like, do you rescue every hurt animal on the property?
Yeah.
No. And he like looks over, there's a fox just staring. Is that a fox?
You're paid to
aren't you paid to cull foxes? That's not what you're here to discuss, is it? Yeah. Dude, Vinnie Jones owns in this movie. I've loved Guy Ritchie movies it's like Statham. It's where we first met this dude.
Yeah.
And it's great to see him, swinging back by for like a victory lap through a Guy Ritchie project, basically.
Sure. Even Ray Winstone's a fun.
Yeah. Apparently Winstone was supposed to have been Bricktop way back in the day in like Lock, Stock, and it didn't work out.
That makes sense.
And so this has been like a Guy Ritchie holding that chip for years of like, I want Winstone in a movie. God damn it.
This definitely needs a really just a pass.
Somebody just needs to shoot Jimmy in the face,
and not even changing I don't need to change the plot or the structure or when events happen. I just need to change the context of things of like, okay, either no one knows what like that Jimmy is fucking up, like it is somehow escaping them all, like they don't realize it, or we cut Jimmy and make Jimmy into two characters, one being the fuck up, one is the botanist.
I would have put Jimmy on a boat the same way that we did the previous kid.
Yeah.
So then the audience would have known what happened to Jimmy then. And then have Freddy decide that his role will be to step up and take Jimmy's job.
Sure.
And not be able to do it.
Yeah, that gives Freddy an arc.
And that lets Freddy really try to do something like, hey man, you've really stepped up, but you don't have the science here. We got to put you with another Jimmy. And like that would have been an arc in the background. Instead, we got his weird weed crack thing.
Yeah.
He never makes any sense, never goes anywhere.
He's only there to facilitate Eddie as a character and to describe like, oh, you're actually pretty good at this. And
Yeah.
how do we know Eddie's pretty good at this? Because Freddy's really bad at it.
Yeah.
Which is a way to do it. I would say lazy way to do it.
Yeah.
But considering that they do a lot in the show to just convince you that Eddie is good at this, like on his own, I'm like, oh no, I believe he's pretty good at this. I don't need Freddy to constantly be a compare and contrast.
No, I didn't need Freddy to power up that. But the real break for me in the show is how dumb they make Jimmy, this one character, when his actions are so directly reflect on our bosses, Susie and Eddie.
He's too intertwined with the plot.
He's too high up and too important and too intertwined.
Too many big events happen around him and his lack of understanding of what's going on.
Thank God Jimmy's stupid enough to move the plot forward. And that's what broke The Gentleman for me, and it's why I probably won't ever rewatch this. And it's why if somebody near me was in a conversation about how much they liked it, I could chime in with things I liked, but I wouldn't bring this up.
Sure.
And that's a fucking shame because, man, there's some great stuff in here.
Even the final episode.
I just got so mad at the total of it.
The final episodes, if you imagine like, and if
Jimmy had died, the ending would work fine.
Yeah. Like in exactly how it is. Like you wouldn't have to change anything.
No.
Because
I just would have believed it more.
It's just because the previous events make Susie a worse character than she needs to be and dumber and like, but yeah, and Susie Glass is kind of like I'm glad Guy Ritchie finally wrote like a female character with something to do.
Right. She's pretty rad.
Even though like she's basically kind of like an extended character of Mickey's wife in the movie, which I thought was like a great idea. I'm like, oh yeah, she was one of the best characters in that movie.
Give me more of her.
So now instead of being Mickey's wife, she's just Mickey. Like I'm like, oh, that's a great idea.
That's great. That modernizes it. That's great.
Except that like I feel like Guy Ritchie doesn't know how to
do here.
Right, like how to write a woman like. It's not that if even just the fact that she's a woman doesn't excuse like how dumb the Jimmy thing is with her.
No, but it makes it worse because she's a woman in the kind of movie where she's gonna need to be, like the adage says, she's gonna need to be twice as smart.
Well, it makes Eddie feel like he's better at this than her.
Yeah.
And that probably shouldn't be the case.
And she's already a character that it was, gonna have to work twice as hard to get half the credit. And then we watch her make the same dumb moves that Eddie makes, and it tars her worse. Like it makes her look dumber in front of her dad, in front of it made the show unspool, and it's now I have this weird tension between remembering how excited I was at the start of it.
Even their premise doesn't really work now because of the details they add. They have a bunch of their crew. They don't have enough people so that Jimmy has to drive a van, but there are enough of them that 7 of them can hang out in a house with one of the lords and basically run his ass and destroy that lordship. Right. And it's like, no, the movie was very specific about this. It's better if you have a profitable relationship with these lords. Right. Because you want to be invisible.
Right. Like clearly those guys weren't lurking in Eddie's dad's house like that. Like they weren't threatening him like that.
And so it looks like they're even running this scam worse.
So if they were gonna, and this is the other thing, if they were gonna do it that way in this movie, which they did, we finally start to look at the other 12 or 13 other pieces of property where this is happening, and one of them just has a crew just leaning on this old man. And if you're gonna do it like that, then you need to show me why Susie coming up is watching the way her dad runs this and going, Dad, you have the slickest system in the country and you're running it like a thug idiot. You can't lean on these people like this. And Eddie can be the new brain of the new thinking that tells Susie, hey, you don't have to pinch lords like that. You can just be friends with them and they'll do what you want.
Yeah.
And like, show me the transition from the way guys used to run it to the way Mickey started running it.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like that was a transition of like, hey guys, we can be gentlemen about this. And it's a different way we don't have to be like the meth dealers.
Instead, the gentleman is more of a metaphor of the gangsters and how they treat each other by the end. Like Gene Carlson Esposito and Ray Winstone can hang in the same cell, even though they fuck each other over.
That chef is still serving him instead of poisoning him, even though he probably got his parole revoked to get another meal or another year of meals. I was thinking that at the end. How the fuck are you not poisoned, dude?
I feel like that's how it was heavily implied.
Yeah, absolutely. All in all, mixed bag. I would recommend people start The Gentleman.
Yeah.
You'll either finish it or you'll get mad like me. I mean, I still finished it.
Yeah.
It flew along. It is fun to watch. It doesn't start to shit its bed until the back half. And even then, other people may not be as bothered by this as me. I wanted to punch Jimmy's teeth out. I wanted someone to do it for me by proxy on screen. No one does.
Honestly, your like dead solid believe movies should be shorter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to develop my own thing of like TV episodes should run shorter.
Yes.
40 minutes should be 30 minutes.
So most of these episodes are 40 minutes long, and those episodes fly.
Yes.
They're
but
awesome.
Some of them
are a buck. Some
Yes.
of them are like an
Some of them
hour
are an
6
hour.
or something like that. And those episodes feel a little overlong.
Mhm.
And then we just watched Avatar's live action, which gave itself about the same amount of time
Like
as
it's
the
about an
cartoon did.
hour.
About an
Yeah.
hour. They should have done 2 more episodes and made each episode 40 minutes. It would have felt action packed every time.
I'm not even saying change the overall length of it. I'm
No.
saying change the length of the chunks we watch.
I am hoping that there are some like Excel spreadsheet stat nerds or something that are working in Hollywood and figuring out that there truly is a sweet spot. Now that it's just wide open, you can make it whatever length you want on streaming. Don't just make it whatever length you want. There's a best length for 3-act or for 2-act or whatever you're writing.
Well, that way would have made
Fucking
it
find it.
It would have made it fly along like a Guy Ritchie movie, which feels
Right.
like we are always on a roller coaster until the end. The Gentleman is a little bit slower paced than his normal fare, but honestly, this show is not just The Gentleman; it's all Guy Ritchie's
Mhm.
movies, for better or for worse.
Yeah. Well,
Like there's Rock and Rolla in here.
yeah,
like-
this feels like the Castle Rock of like, let's take a bit from every Guy Ritchie and put them all in one movie or one show. And the Gentleman movie is it's entirely told. It's a memory play. It's entirely told flashback, just
Mhm.
about until like the very end. And this is very much real time. Like we're moving forward. We're not getting this told after the fact when
Yeah.
everything's worked out fine.
That's true. That is a pretty clever of like Hugh Grant is basically made a screenplay, so he's cut through all the.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm just gonna get to the interesting parts.
Well, and every once in a while, he's a unreliable narrator. He'll say something
That is
and
funny.
Charlie Hunnam's like, there's no fucking way that's how that happened.
Yeah, but we need an action scene here.
Yeah,
like,
it's gonna look good though. I mean, what you really said was stupid.
Like this is like, but we're on page 80, and like we need
Yeah.
like we need something to go.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to get more. I know Guy Ritchie's got a deal with Netflix, I believe, so there's going to be more Guy Ritchie stuff probably.
Sure.
But I don't know if this will get a season 2. They leave it set up just fine to be more, but
Honestly, I
I
could
don't
see him trying another style of this. I would like to see a bank robbing crew that are going on different heists every episode.
here's Den of Thieves, the series.
Yeah, or what Wrath of Man should have been.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely. Yeah. There's definitely more to mine here. I'm enjoying seeing what a writer's room can do with Ritchie property and Ritchie isms.
Mhm.
I don't want Swept Away the series, but I would watch more Guy Ritchie stuff. Uneven, but that's all Ritchie movies, man.
Mhm. I mean, yeah, that's all there is in it.
That's all there is in it. Also, God, I spent like a day with "in it" after every sentence in my head, and like, no, I don't understand how that part of speech works. Don't use it.
Well, that's that's all of Jimmy.
It's everything Jimmy says has that in it.
Mhm.
He says that at the end of every sentence in it. Well, that's about all from us for now. Tune in next week. We're going to talk about the return of the animated X-Men. X-Men 97.
Da-na-na-na-na.
And it's going to be on Disney Plus without its showrunner, has made the news this week.
Oh, that was interesting. to
So
see.
yeah, we'll see what other shoe drops on that. But double episode of X-Men 97 to discuss. Actually, I think we'll have 3 by the time we record. Cannot wait.
Okay.
I'm so stoked. So stoked for that cartoon.
Sure. I'm
Less stoked.
I don't know. I feel like lately I've just been like I've known to like temper my expectations on sort of this sort of thing. Like
This is one of those where, like, if they were making new X-Men movies from the Bryan Singer ones, I'd be less excited. If they were X-Men in the 90s, I hated that animation style, but that's one of the few shows that got the plots right from the comics.
Sure.
Like they seemed to get what they were doing and not be ashamed of their source material.
Mhm.
It looks like they fixed the animation style, and So I'm hoping to just get like up converted 90s show. That's what I'm really wanting here.
Right.
So we'll see. Either way, it's about our only Marvel stuff happening this year. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only reason I'm like, when was the last time a Marvel cartoon, like, well, honestly, that you even remember coming out? Like, do you know that like there's an Avengers cartoon, a Guardians cartoon, a Spider-Man cartoon, and
Right.
all those stuff came out like in the last
Spider-Man
5,
cartoons.
and like, and no one cares.
No.
Like,
What if? I'm hoping that this hits more like What If, because
mhm.
man, I really dug that. That
Sure.
made an impact. So we'll see. Of course, there's screams of wokeism, and that's always fun to hear. Yeah. So we'll see what folks say about X-Men 97 when it comes out next week, and you can hear what we say about it,
Absolutely.
which is really the most important thing.
Also, don't forget to head over to patreon.com/tvdudes to hear what Les thinks about Avatar Season 2, the original series. We've been calling
Terrible.
it
It's just terrible.
We've been calling it the animated series, but I feel like we should call it the original series, because I feel like that'll calling the one live action and one animated makes it feel like they're like both like, oh, which one was like, no, the OG, the original one.
Atla OG.
But till next time.
TV Dudes out.